What is going on? This is Coach Coleman, Jesse Coleman, and you're checking into Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast where we help you tap into your full potential. What is going on, world? What it do? What's up? What's popping? Hope everybody's had a great week. Hope you had a great weekend. I know for me, my weekend was pretty dope. For you all that know, I'm a big Michigan fan, and they came to Chicago and played at the historical friendly confines of Wrigley Field where the Chicago Cubs play. And let me just say this. I am a full-blown South Side or White Sox fan, and I will never pass up an opportunity to go to Wrigley Field because again, it's one of the, if not the greatest, one of the greatest stadiums in all of sports. So being able to go there, and it was a historical day. It was Michigan's third time in school history playing at a baseball stadium and the first time playing at Wrigley Field. And when I tell you it was like a home game for Michigan there, it was so much amazing blue in there. It was a good time, and it was another opportunity for me and my sister. We always we season ticket holders for Michigan, so we go up there whenever there's a home game, and that's our brother and sister trip, and it is always a great time. So being able to experience that with her and just enjoying herself. Um, Fox Fox Big Noon was there. Barstool Sports was there. They were passing out a bunch of free stuff, and let me tell you, they know how to get over on people because they made specific hats and shirts and things like that for the actual game. And the price they were charging for stuff was crazy because they knew we were gonna buy it. $50 for a t-shirt. I paid $50 for a hat, $50 for two t-shirts. Crazy. And it was a part of, history. I may be able to find some of this stuff online at a later date. Maybe I won't. It's a lot of times you don't want to take those chances and you want to be able to get the stuff you want to get and just move on. Now I don't have to worry about that. If I, do go online and I find something that's the Cubs store or some of the other businesses that were selling merchandise. If I go online and I'm able to find that, then that'd be perfect. But I don't want to have to worry about that. So that was a good weekend. Fantasy football was crazy. The Bears, Michigan, last second field goal to win, and the Bears last second field goal to win. 2 days in a row that I had to deal with high blood pressure, and that's what being a sports fan to do to you. It can break your heart, but it can also make you happy at the same time. And it was just a great weekend for sports, and it was all good. And I want to get into it for today's episode. For a lot of you all who've listened to the podcast or me, I have been very big on reading about the Stoics, and I saw this quote before. Yet it was something about reading the quote today that really hit me hard. And it's from Marcus Aurelius. And it says, "Don't you see how much you have to offer and yet you still settle for less?" Again, he said, "Don't you see how much you have to offer and yet you still settle for less?" And that hit me hard. For some reason, it hit me hard today where we're all we're born with God given talent. We know that. And for a lot of people, you go to school, you read a lot of books, you learn a lot of things, you know a lot of things, where you're in a position where you can do so much more that you're not going all in on things. And it's oftentimes, people ask for a lot of more, but they don't live like they live like they deserve less. So again, you want so much more, but you live like you deserve less. And if you think about it, the truth of the matter is we were all built for so much more. We were all built for so much more, and you can see the people that know they want more, they're built for more, and they're showing up as more. You can see them from the process, the progress of what they're doing, and the way their life is maneuvering. And again, we have to be able to say we want more, and we need to do the things to get more. And how many times have you felt that inner pour, that or that whisper? You know, we I like the cartoons where they had the angel and the devil sitting on the shoulder, and it's like whispering to you. How often or how many times have you had that little voice whispering to you like you are capable of more than this? You are capable of so much more. I've had times, and I still have times where I'm like, bro, talking to myself, like, bro, you're not giving 110%. You are not showing up as the person you should be, that you can show up as. You're not showing up and doing the things that you know you can do. And that's the thing, we have to be real. We always have to be real with ourselves and say, I am not showing up as the version I want to be. I am capable of more and I'm not giving more. And yet we trade potential for comfortability. Again, we trade potential for comfortability. The potential we have, the more that we can accomplish, the more that we can go get, we trade that in for comfort. And if we really think about it, we all know this, your comfort zone is not comfortable at all, because there's a lot of stuff that we are not doing because we are in the quote unquote comfort zone and we know that's bullshit. And another part of that is we trade our gifts for convenience. We want conveniency in everything. Now, that's not a bad thing. Now, let's take a step back, because I will pay for conveniency. Yet we're not talking about that. We're talking about in a different realm of, you have so much potential, yet you're gonna have to get one uncomfortable, and it's gonna be an inconvenience for you to capitalize on that potential that you have. And too often we'll just trade that in, like, you know what? I don't want to go through the stress of building this big business. I don't want to go through the stress of building this amazing relationship I want. I don't want to go through that. I'll just be where I'm at. And you want to be, you want to have the conveniency of just being where you are. And you're trading in the gift you have. We accept 70% effort and call it enough. Now, what I know people are going to say is, well, Jesse, before you said, just being consistent is not giving 100% effort. That's true. And when you are not giving full effort. There's some days when you go to the gym and you just don't have 100% in you. Physically, mentally, emotionally, you probably didn't, eat enough. You probably didn't get enough carbs in, and you just can't give 100%. You can't lift as heavy as you wanted to lift, yet you still showed up. That's when we say about being consistent. We're talking about when you can give 100% and you only give 70% and you just let 30% there. That's what we're talking about right now. Again, I know people are going to say, well, no, no, we're not talking about that. And you all know this. This is one of those things where you know that you can give more and you're just choosing not to. There's one thing of limiting, limitations, but there's another part when you make the conscious decision that you are going to bullshit around and you're not going to give 100%. That's when it's you accept 70% effort and you call it enough. We use the excuse of, oh, well, they say consistency is just showing up. Yes, and when you can give your all, give it. If you can't, the limitations there where you can't give it, then 70% is cool, 50% is cool. It's just when you know you got more and you don't give more and you figure it's enough because you use that as an excuse. One quote that I want you to write down or replay, write it somewhere, is settling isn't a lack of opportunity, it's a lack of belief. A lot of times we settle for things because we don't have belief in ourselves that we can accomplish those things. And remember, we always talk about this where everything is mental. It goes back to our mindset. It goes back to how we're thinking. What are we putting in? What is the input and what is the output? The input in is bullshit. The output is going to be bullshit. And remember, settling isn't a lack of opportunity. It's a lack of belief. We have to have belief in ourselves. Then we come to a situation where people settle without even realizing it. We settle in our business, we settle in our relationships, we settle in our mindset, we settle in our health. And I'll talk about health, giving the body leftovers instead of intentional effort. I talk about this so much with people, and in the KW ecosystem, we talked about this on the podcast before, where it's going from E to P, entrepreneur to purposeful, where we got to be purposeful, intentional about our health and what we're doing. Shit is crazy out here. People are here today, going tomorrow. Health, there's so many health issues going on that we have to be serious about that. And a big part of that is when people they don't feel like there's nothing wrong. That's the big part of like, oh, I feel good, nothing's wrong. No, what are you putting into your body? What is your body consuming? Always think of it like a car. If you put bullshit in your car, you put that bullshit gas, you don't get an oil change. What happens to your car? Our body is just like that. We got to remember we have to be very purposeful and intentional about what we're doing for our health wise. Mindset. We let fear decide instead of discipline. We always talk about motivation, and we know motivation is BS, and discipline is the key. Discipline and consistency. Yet we let fear decide our what we're gonna do and what we're not gonna do, as opposed to our discipline and our habits that we created. And again, the mind is a tricky thing because we already know our subconscious mind doesn't know what's real or what's fake. So what we're putting in there, the thoughts that we're having, we just start settling and we don't realize it because our subconscious mind just feed on the bullshit. Business related, accepting low standards, low activity, and low expectations. I will almost relate business to the relationship side of things. And the relationship side of things is staying around people who drain instead of it elevate you. Remember, we talked about this before on the podcast where if you are around individuals that only pull from you and take from you, but they don't give back, and you don't realize that because you're thinking like, that's what friends are for. I'm there for my friend, I'm there for my friend. Yeah, it's a two-way street. And I always say, you are not an electric car charger station. Don't let these people come, fill up their battery, and then leave you on empty. Because people are trauma dump on you. They'll dump all their bullshit on you, and then they'll go go about their business, and they feel better. But yet, you're mentally dealing with that trauma because they just dumped all that negativity on you, and we 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 settle without realizing that we think, hey, I need to be the best friend I could be, so it's okay. But no, it's not okay. It needs to be a two-way street. The way you charge their battery is the same way they need to charge yours. And I want to ask you this question. This is something I want you all to think about, and I want you to really spend some time and answer the question is, where have you been settling? Right? What area in your life that you've been settling, and what have you been tolerating? Now, this question is going to be tailored towards people, places, and things. And also, first thing we got to do is always look in the mirror at ourselves. What are we what have we been settling on that we want to do? If that's health wise, if that's business wise, if that relationship wise, and what have we been tolerating from ourselves? Because what we know is that we will project that shit so quick to everybody else, where it's like, oh yeah, let me talk about what I'm settling for with this person or what I'm tolerating with that person. No, what are you settling for and what are you tolerating that you have control over, not nobody else? And we know there's a cost to settling. That there's a cost for everything. I forget. Y'all gonna really get on my ass because I can't remember. I think it was James Brown, and I know it's James Brown. And if I'm mistaken, damn it, y'all can just hold me to it. There's a cost to be the boss. There's a cost to settling. Settling steals confidence. Settling kills momentum. Settling makes you feel resentful. It makes you feel resentful of life and people. But also, we're going to keep it on the inside. You start being resentful to yourself. I've been there before. Hell, recently, where I know I wasn't giving 110% on certain things. I know I wasn't showing up the way I wanted to show up. And I started getting resentful to myself because it's like, bro, you know what you're supposed to do. You know what's supposed to be happening. You know how you're supposed to be showing up. You need to start showing up for that. So we have to stop settling for these things. Again, when we settle, it steals our confidence. So now we lose that confidence in ourselves. We lose that dog. We lose that drive because we're not giving the full effort we know we can give. And then the momentum that we've built over time for the things that we're doing, we start losing that. Think about football, where they are moving the ball down the field. They started at their own 5 yard line. They move it down to the 10, 15, 20 at the 50 yard line. Now they're on the opposing team's 40 yard line, and then they have a false start. After the false start, they have 12 men on the field, penalties. Self inflicted wounds, it killed that momentum that they had of moving down the field. And that's what happened to us. We killed that momentum. And then we start having that resentfulness for life, people, and ourselves. When we settle for the way people treat us and the way people do things, we start resenting them. We start looking at them different. And here's the thing: we can't get mad at them because you teach people how to treat you. If you're letting people do certain things and act a certain way and you're letting it slide, you're selling it for it, you can't be mad at them. You can only be mad at yourself. And we all know how we can create habits. You can create habits doing good things. You can create habits doing bad things. Settling is one of those things where you're creating bad habits, and you have to make sure you break those habits as soon as possible. You have to break that shit. Now, here we go. Okay, Jesse, you're talking all this stuff about settling and what Marcus Aurelius say. Don't see how much you have to offer, and yet you still settle. You still settle for less. Blah blah blah. What that has to do with us? Okay, well, we need to break past that. And it's one of those situations where raise your standards, and your standards will raise you. We always talk about our standards have to be in alignment with our goal. We have to raise our standards not only for ourselves but for other people. We have to raise our standards for our health, for our relationship, for our business, for our relationships, key relationships. You know, we have to raise our standards. We have to set those standards, and we have to adhere to those standards. That's a big thing, that people don't have standards, but when they do have standards, they don't commit to those standards. You have to be committed. You don't motivation. You can't be motivated. You have to be committed to something. You have to have the discipline around it. Now, what's one area that you've been settling in, and I want you to rewrite the standard for today. Okay, so you pick out an area that you've been settling in. We talked about that, right? And then now I want you to rewrite the standards for that. Just like we talked about when we talked about goal setting, where if your goal was to do this, what are the standards you have to be in alignment with to be able to hit that goal? So I want you to rewrite the standards today. Rewrite the standards for that. Another quote I heard, and it says, "A person who has more to offer cannot live a low standard life." Again, a person who has more to offer cannot live a low standard life. You have more to offer. You have more to give. You have so much you want to accomplish. You cannot live a low standard life. You have to be all in, and you have to raise your standards. And as you all know, at the end of each episode, I always give a challenge for you all. And what I the challenge I want to give to you all today is: what would your life look like if you stopped settling for your old self? and you started showing up as the version that you actually are, what would your life look like? What would your life look like over the next 10 years, 5 years? Hell, what would your life look like over the next year? We are on where we are November 18th. What would your life look like on November 18th, 2026, if you stop settling for your old self, you start showing up at the version of you that you actually are? So I want you all to answer that question, and I want you to share it with me. You know where to find me on Instagram at coach_Coleman 065. Share it with me. Drop it in if you're watching on YouTube, drop it in the comment. But I want to know what that looks like, because again, we have to stop settling. We have to stop settling for people, and we have to stop settling for ourselves. That's the big part. We have to stop settling in ourselves, because we don't want to have that resentment for ourselves, and we don't want to look at ourselves a certain way because we're not showing up as we're supposed to show up. So again, this episode was brought to you by Marcus Aurelius, where he said, "Don't you see how much you have to offer, and yet you still settle for less?" This is your boy, Coach Coleman, Jesse Coleman. Thanks for rocking with me. Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast, where we help you tap into your full potential. And I'll see you next week. Peace.
This is Fresh Boy Production.